hands on the gavel. The legacy that we're all passed down like a crown of chains. I see the black voices now rising. It's little balls of air to defend. Where are the ones who were here first? The stewards of land, the keepers of story, the bloodlines that survives centuries of fire and theft. Why are the voices missing? From the platform girls to lineage authority and inherited power. This world is not black and white. It's red, brown, gold, and every shade in between. Yet the stage is small and the rules are bad. Protect the lives who built it with violence and war. Just another witness the section, but the ones who carry the fire of survival, the wisdom of struggle, the courage of truth. I call for a medal, I call myself. Let the questions rise, let the answers echo. The world is bigger and the platform is smaller, but we will not be silenced.
Habitat Yappy, this is Nick Estes, co-host of the Red Nation podcast. We are in studio with Kim Tallbear, a very special guest of ours.
And also making a guest appearance, Forge in the Flesh. I would like to start off by saying I was adopted into the Tapilan Galatecan tribe in San Antonio, Texas. So that was a thing. I have not been a part of the tribe. Like, technically I have helped out for, I would say, at least a decade or over a decade, but after there was a falling out, and we can definitely get into that, because I do feel like it definitely correlates to some of the rhetoric, I would say, a little bit, or the talking points. I would say maybe even the mentality of Kim, and I guess it would make sense because they are from the same clan, right? So that kind of makes a little sense. Okay, so here we go.
Kim, do you want to just start by introducing yourself, and then we can jump right into the podcast?
Or what did I say, clan? I meant they're part of they're both associated with the Bear family, is what I meant to say.
Discussion.
Yeah, I'm Kim Tallbear. I am a citizen of the Sistan Waptanoyate in what is today South Dakota. I grew up in Flanders, South Dakota, though, mostly, and also in the Twin Cities. I just started this year as a professor of American Indian Studies at the University of Minnesota after spending 10 years at the University of Alberta in the Faculty of Native Studies. So it's nice to be home.
We are so excited to have you here at the University of Minnesota and here in the American Indian Studies Department. For those of you tuning in.
Okay, if I could say anything also about like what have I done? I am a security guard at the moment. I'm more of like an artist, inventor, dreamer. So technically I haven't really done much. I am working on a business, but that's going into a whole nother thing. Okay, there we go.
And listening or watching, we're actually in our office. We're in the same room. It might not seem like it, but we're actually in the same room. We're recording live in the studio, and Kim's office and my office is just down the hall from us. So we literally just walk down the hall to jump in the studio. So it's a great pleasure to have you here today. We are discussing this upcoming conference that you're having. It's called Holding Our Ground. Voices and Strategies Against Self-Indigenization. It's a hybrid symposium hosted here at the University of Minnesota in the McNamara Alumni Center. That's happening Wednesday, March 18th and Thursday, March 19th. It's a full day of schedules. We have, I think there's like two keynotes during the day, and then one book talk at night. We can go over the details of the schedule. But before,
I just want to say I'm gonna jump in, whenever I feel it's appropriate. Right now, I'm gonna be like more like y'all, which is more of an observer up until I feel like I need to say something. Okay.
before we jump into that, I wanted to just talk about this notion of self-indigenization. There are various kind of terms floating out there. There's kind of the vernacular of pretendianism or pretend Indians. But somebody who is in the academy and has been around the sort of arts world, whether it's film, writing, entertainment, this notion of pretendianism or self-indigenization, where non-native people, non-indigenous people indigenize themselves and begin to make individual claims to indigeneity, is a very prevalent problem. It's something that I think I think the first time I ever encountered a pretendian was in high school. I was in a summer program, and this woman, who still is actually actively pretending to be Oglala Lakota, was outed at the time. But I wanted to just ask your sort of personal story. Like, how did you get involved in doing this kind of work? And it's not just like, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what you do, because you're an academic, you study this, you're trained, you do a lot of ethnography and anthropology. So I would just like to hear your personal story about how you got involved.
Well, I wonder what the misconceptions are. That's kind of interesting.
Okay. Okay. Right.
Well, it's like the pretendian hunters, people kind of have these derogatory labels.
Yeah, I mean, well, nobody's killing anybody putting their
Yeah.
Tracking pretendians. I think that might be better.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't set up.
Okay, I'm just gonna start off right here with the word pretendianism, pretend Indianism. That's a real interesting thing, because I think it's been said before, right? Like, being native isn't just like a skin color, right? It is a way of life. And I definitely agree 100% that there is a genetic aspect to this whole thing, and that ties you directly to the environment, to your homeland, like to whatever land you're on, and that does have to do, I would say, with adaptation, because after so long, I think animals' genes can adapt or change to according to the environment. That's the thing that happens. Where was I going with that? So I think that does play a role in the whole genetic variation of different people, and how you could kind of tell, like, these people come from this area because they look like this, because that's kind of directly tying them to the land. Literally, the land shapes who you are, and you shape the land. But it is interesting when a person is not just a person, a whole culture is stripped from the land, a whole group of people, and they lose their history, because that's the thing that happens, right? People lose their history. And not just that, it's going to get mentioned. Things get burned, records get burned. I believe the old saying goes, history is written by the conquerors, right? So I'm pretty sure they didn't document everything. And on top of them not being able to adequately document every native that, every tribe that was dispersed or literally just chose not to be a part of the census that the Americans were trying to, do to all the Native Americans, other than, I would say, indigenous, because are talking about indigenizing, and I never really had a problem with the word indigenous because I did feel like it was talking about going back to this specific way of living and not trying to claim a specific culture, a tribe's culture, but partake in the tribal government that already exists. Like, I think tribal governments are not bad, right? I think this native spiritual way of looking at life is not a bad one. There, and which one? There's many of them. Like it's been said before, native culture is not a monolith, right? Monolith. But when it comes to what qualifies a native to be native, all of a sudden it does become this is the golden standard, and everybody is agreeing to this one thing, which is not true. There is a lot of contention when it comes to what it means to be this thing. And I would have to say, obviously, you can't argue that genetics and what is it called? Ancestry is directly a part of that. The part that starts getting questioned is how you decide to determine what is true versus what is false, what you consider to be proof, because that is where the real contention is, not whether or not the ancestry is correct or not. It's whether you believe what is being said about the ancestry, or you believe who is saying it. Because if it's a whole bunch of white people's documentation saying whatever, and you're choosing to believe that over an oral tradition, it's kind of weird. It's a little weird because how did we go about deciding who was native before the white man came and documented and used all the census? Huh? How did we do that? Okay, I said a lot of words. Not much even got started yet, so let's play the video. It's been 3 seconds. It's been 3 minutes, and I already spent 13 minutes. Okay, here we go.
Out to research this as an anthropological project, although I do often say white people are my research subjects. They have spent so long researching us and making us into objects and putting us under the gaze of the scientific lens. I feel that turnabout's fair play. And so I talk.
That's a little weird. That right there, that kind of mentality, to me, just seems a little weird. Like, the turnabout is fair play, and the natives are, and the white people are interesting. Like, in which way that they have a lot of disease, and that they have really bad lifestyles that cause pollution in not only the land but their own, like, minds and hearts and everything else. Like, what part of them is interesting? Like, is it, I don't know what would be interesting. If anything, I think we need more damn healthcare for natives. I think that would be interesting to talk about. More damn healthcare for natives. Make it, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna start renting that. That is a thing I was thinking about. And also, seriously, my brother was actually working on that, and I would like to do what is it called? Some stewardship of the land. I am a security guard right now, and I want to look into working with the city or seeing what I have to do to get a what is that thing called? Let me think of the word. Hold on. Getting a contract with the city so that I could clean up some areas around here and just probably patrol it to make sure people don't, dump stuff on the ground. So I actually really do want to start a stewardship of the land thing, but and I would like to make it so that it can be a part of like some type of ecosystem restoration based program. But yeah, that's the thing I really want to do. That's interesting. Okay.
About that in my book, Native American DNA, Tribal Belonging, and the False Promise of Genetic Science. Now, that book was really looking at the politics of human population geneticists who were doing human migrations research, drawing blood, analyzing the DNA of indigenous peoples. And I look at the ethics of that, right? How that's very, it's been historically extractive research. It's been research that has objectified us, that's coming from this real kind of old world meets new world immigration narrative. And of course, that's not our narrative as the first peoples of these continents, right? To us, this is the center of the world. This is where we start. So that book's about that. But because I wrote a book on the politics of genetic ancestry testing and the politics of genetic research, I kept getting called by the media, really beginning maybe in the mid early 2000s, but really quite a lot by 2012 when Elizabeth Warren was running for senator in the state of Massachusetts. And her Republican opponent, Scott Brown, called her Pocahontas. So he did that before Trump did. And because there were stories coming out that she had claimed to be Cherokee and that there were accusations she got employment benefit because of that. So I got called by the Boston Globe, I think it was, and then I had to explain to people because Scott Brown and others said, why doesn't she just take a DNA test? And that will clear it up. Well, it doesn't clear it up. And I had to explain why. You've got to understand that the scientific methods of genetic ancestry testing, but you also have to understand indigenous nation citizenship criteria.
Okay, right there. Right there, that's pretty interesting. You got, so you could have the bloodline, right? You have the blood in your flowing through your veins, but if you don't fit the indigenous criteria citizenship, then that means. Wait, let me say the words right because I didn't say that right.
You've got to understand that the scientific methods of genetic ancestry testing, but you also have to understand indigenous nation citizenship criteria.
You gotta understand indigenous citizenship criteria. Okay. So that's what I was saying. How long has this been going on? Like, is that a white man's concept, or is indigenous citizenship, was that a thing pre colonialism, right? Because I thought in my head, my little head, right, my young brain, I thought that being native had to do with being a part of the land, literally being from that piece of land for generations, for generations back, being there at this spot, and also having a certain lifestyle that is, it's supposed to be like a spiritual lifestyle, and it's supposed to be a physical lifestyle that keeps you in balance with the ecosystem, and just keeps you. That's it. That's as far as I'm gonna go with that. When it comes to native, like a native lifestyle, and tribal governments is a real thing. So tribal governments and native lifestyle, not exactly the same thing, but they are part of the same system. And yes, there are nations that form. My question though is, when it comes to her acceptance of, like, her version of what citizenship is, how does that work when it comes to natives who never wanted to be a part of your nation? How does that work? You claim them to not be native, I guess, right? You just claim them not to be native. So, if they don't want to be a part of your native nation, then they're not native. Is that how that works? Because you're saying they could have native ancestry and they could be from the place, I guess. I'm not sure what you're saying with that exactly, because you're saying they could have the DNA, but if they don't fit your criteria of citizenship, who asked to be in that specific nation, right? Because it's supposed to be I'm not trying to be offensive or anything. I'm just trying to be like, I thought this is how it worked. That indigenous native people, tribes, had different forms of governance, and they had different rules. That's why there was different tribes, because they were like, I want to do things this way. I have this lifestyle. I live in this area. This is how we're going to do things. And everybody had a different way of living in tune with the environment they were in. So there was different rules for different communities, and not everybody agreed on everything, and everyone didn't need to be a part of this one nation that you're talking about in order to be a native. But as long as people would go to war, definitely, even if they weren't on the same team, if the land was getting messed up, that was a thing. And I think not just the land, but I think there is something also with the people, because I would assume if there's atrocities happening with people and the tribes know about it, they would go to war for stuff, for injustices that would happen. That's what I believe. That's not what I know, and this is me again speaking from like the place that has been stripped from like the only culture I have been given is what has been shared with me through, I would say, the spirits, like the Great Spirit, but also the ancestors too, because I mean, I do believe that we do have guides. I do believe that even like these people talking, there is knowledge that is shared through everything. Like the trees teach you stuff. You don't need to have like a specific person to teach you the spiritual things. But I believe man will try to convince you that you need another man in order to get to God, in order to know the truth, right? Not saying that community is bad. I'm not saying that being a part of a group can be a part of a healthy like lifestyle or a pattern, but there can be clarity away from the group. Like there can be a thing where people are too much in the group and then they become, kind of like blindly following whatever people say. And yeah, that's kind of my question, is just really like, how does that work when you're saying citizenship requires whatever you say, and another person, like let's say I'm just a native from the jungles of Mexico, right? I would say native means to be a part of the land, to have a certain spiritual lifestyle, and I mean, it doesn't need to directly correlate with any political views or anything. But typically, it was tribal governance that ruled, because that does allow this freedom of different people to do and believe what they want while still having a cohesive nation form. And that's not to say that there wasn't another nation down in Mexico. There was a whole other nation's empires going on other places. Even like in that nation, in America, that nation, not all the tribes, as far as I'm aware of, I could be wrong, unless it was that nation was just like an empire that forced everybody to be assimilate into the thing. I don't think everybody was just in this one giant nation. From what I understood, there were some cannibals that were just like eating people, and they were just like, go over there. You're gonna go to like the border because you're eating people, and y'all gonna have to do y'all's thing over there. Like, we don't want y'all over here. So that's a thing. Okay. 5 minutes in. How long have I been talking already? 26 minutes. Okay. 20. I'm gonna have to play this video because this is getting way too long.
Yeah. And how do those two things mix or don't mix? And so she won senator, and that story kind of went away for a little while. And then she is running again in 2018 for the Democratic Party nomination to run for president, and Trump calls her Pocahontas. And
I forgot to mention. I heard her say the media called her out. So, I mean, that's a little interesting. The media calling her out. Let me put my thinking cap on here. Where's my thinking cap? Okay. Okay, yeah, the media calling her out, right? Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because, I mean, the media, it's always, whenever they are in the picture, they're always like trying to help out, right? They never have like this agenda. They never have these puppets, right? They never have these narratives that they're trying to push. That's never happening, right? When it comes to the media, or even like, let's just talk about the authorities, right? Not even law enforcement, just the authorities. Because who are the authorities? Anyone who holds positions of power, set up by who? The system that was set up by force. That is the authorities, and that is the trickle down power of the authorities, right? The law enforcement, those that enforce the rules. Who's, I would say, who is a authority figure? I mean, people in academia, right? Obviously. But hold on, where was I going with this? Let me think. The authorities that are deciding who is native, right? Like, that's a form of authority. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Okay. Thinking cap. I'm taking this thinking cap off. That was not helping me. That did not help me think at all.
I got, and then she releases the DNA test results. She did a DNA test with that a Stanford geneticist interpreted. She released this big video online. So between 2012 and 2018, I get called on the Joseph Boyden case. I get called on the Michelle Latimer case, right? I get called on all these pretendian cases. Andrea Smith, the academic at UC Riverside, was a big one. And because I got called by the media, I just got a de facto education in the patterns of pretendianism.
Now she's an expert. That's another authority figure. The expert. The expert is definitely an authority figure. The educated, right? Because knowledge is power. Is a form of authority. So she's got two under her. Oh, I'm not. What am I saying here? She's got two under her belt. She's like an authority figure for me, in my opinion. Like, she's already putting herself in this position, and I think it is good to have leaders. It is good to have someone who's going to speak out and say what needs to be said. but this just seems interesting because she said she was called by the media. I mean, she wasn't called by the Spirit, right, to do a great task that she felt in her heart like she had to get done. She wasn't called by the people that were asking her. And when I say the people, because she's gonna say the people did call me. The media is the people. Are they not people? Who are your people? Like your people. You had enough. Is that what happened? Like you had enough people, like in the tribe to be like, okay, yeah, we're gonna back this chick. Is that what happened? Like how many people in your tribe was like, we need this. We need to call this out. We need you to go do that. Like we want you to do this. Because I didn't really hear you saying like the people in your community was asking you to do this. I know you said in the past that there was no recognition, right, in Indian country. So you went to Canada where there was more coverage, right? Or more ability for exposure or something. Okay, I'm getting lost in my words.
And so I started to be a commenter on the broader issue, not only the DNA aspects of it. And so that's how I got pulled into it. And believe me, it's not been super fun to do it. So.
I can understand it. You know, as somebody who gets interviewed by the media a lot, what are the sort of common misconceptions or distortions of these issues?
Pretendianism,
Yeah.
quote unquote, in general. You mean the way that people misperceive the problem? Yeah, I think, there's so much to talk about here. I think there's been a lot of defensiveness of people that do this, not only by non-Indigenous people, but even by legitimate Indigenous people. The sense that, well, this is honoring us. And especially, I think, older people or people who didn't grow up in Indian country. Those are two different things, but I say that they might tend to be disproportionately defending self-indigenizers, because for older people, they grew up in an era where it was dangerous to be an Indian, right?
Okay, this is very interesting here, because now, if you notice, now she is discrediting the elders. If I heard correctly, I could be wrong, but she said, let me let her say it again, because I'm gonna replay it because if I heard correctly, this is the gatekeeping that I'm talking about. Like literally, it doesn't matter if the elders sign off on it and they're like, look, this is how it should be. It doesn't matter if the person has a blood type, right? It doesn't matter if the next generation wants to change how the last generation is deciding how things are done. What matters is how this one group in this one generation decided it's going to go for the rest of the generations. That's what I'm hearing. Like literally, and she's grouping in outsiders with other natives who she disagrees with. Because let me play this back one time.
Us, and especially, you mean the way that people misperceive the problem? Yeah, I think there's so much to talk about here. I think there's been a lot of defensiveness of people that do this, not only by non-Indigenous people, but even by legitimate Indigenous people. The sense that, well, this is honoring us. And especially, I think, older people or people who didn't grow up in Indian country.
See, so now she's saying older people and especially older people that didn't grow up in Indian country. So is it that there's there's natives, elder natives, natives that are elders, right? You're elders, and you're saying that. Let me play this again because I always don't want to like misquote somebody.
The sense that, well, this is honoring us. And especially, I think, older people or people who didn't grow up in Indian country. Those are two different things, but I say that they might tend to be disproportionately defending self-indigenizers because for older people, they grew up in an era where it was dangerous to be an Indian, right? Dangerous. And the racism was explicit and violent. And it still is like that in some parts of North America, but not everywhere. And so for them, for anybody, you know, when I was a little kid and growing up in Flanders, South Dakota, white people didn't want to be Indians. This was not a thing, you know? And so that's what these older people remember. They remember the violence. So, oh, this is their, if they don't hate us, they want to be us. They look up to us. And then I think you have a lot of non-Indigenous people or people with Indigenous ancestry who grew up away from community.
Yeah, so she's saying there's Indigenous elders that are fine with what the self-indigenizers are doing, and she doesn't like it because it's not fitting her generation's version or what is it called? Standards of what's required to be in the Native nation, right? The Native American nation. No, if it isn't fit this specific generation's standards that she, I guess, is a part of because her elders disagrees with her, which she's agreeing with, and she's also saying like, hey, okay, that's it. I played it back. I was right. It's kind of weird. Let's keep on playing it.
Who have similar, who kind of romanticize it and think this is a good thing and this is multicultural inclusion and this is what
romanticizing. Now this is an interesting word right here because I've had people tell me this before when I wanted to grow food and have a garden. They were saying I was romanticizing Native culture. So, but he wanted me to have his horses in my house to take care of them. Like what is that? Right? That's kind of weird. That's romanticizing Native culture. Galloping on horses and wearing all your jewelry for occasions, for special events. Getting paid for it. That's romanticizing it. Not growing food for your family and living off the grid and being self-sustainable and being one with the land. Because literally, I was talking about being one with the land. He was like, you know how hard that is? Do you think it was easy back then? Do you think this? Do you think that? Do you want to live like? It was just like, this guy wants to live in a house. I mean, I don't mind having some form of, I wouldn't mind like a mansion, really, in a mountain, but or like a tree house. I wouldn't mind a cool tree house, or even like some kind of cool underwater thing. But I'm going off topic.
Welcoming. They're not, I think, what we try to be clear about, those of us who work on this issue, is that this is yet another form of colonial appropriation, right? There's the narrative, they do so much good. Oh, but they do so much good. But what was your original question?
I was just like the media misperceptions.
Yeah.
Because,
well, the first question I get from reporters is, well, really, what harm do they cause?
Right.
That's immediately where they go to. What are the harms? And
trying to follow her train of thought. I mean, she doesn't know where she's going herself, so yeah, I'm lost. I don't know where the hell she's going. She doesn't know where she's going. I can't even like remember what the guy's question was, and he asked, what is one of the first things that get misunderstood when it comes to pretendiism?
Indians, this is self-indigenous by non-indigenous. believe me, it's just interpreted.
They have these derogatory labels.
Yeah, I mean, well, nobody's killing anybody putting their yeah,
Yeah.
tracking maybe tracking pretendians. I think that might be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't set out to research this as an anthropological project, although I do often say,
Okay, we'll go here.
right, I get called on all these pretendian cases. Andrea Smith, the academic at UC Riverside, was a big one. And because I got called by the media, I just got a de facto education in the pattern
Guys, sorry, okay.
ancestry who
Right.
grew up away from community, who have similar, who kind of romanticize it and think this is a good thing, and this is multicultural inclusion, and this is welcoming. They're not, I think, what we try to be clear about, those of us who work on this issue, is that this is yet another form of colonial appropriation, right? There's the narrative, they do so much good, but they do so much good.
Fast forward, this is the last time we're here.
You have more important things to worry about. Why are you wasting your time on this? I had an Indigenous woman back in 2017, I think, when I was commenting on the Joseph Boyden case, get after me all over social media because I didn't work on missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I said, well, there's a lot of people working on that. That's not what I work on. I work.
Do you hear this shit? Oh, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm sorry. But, so now she's saying, I got other stuff to worry about. Other people are worrying about that. The media called me for this. I know that the people are asking me for that. Media is calling me for this. I mean, which one makes more money? I actually get more recognition if I do the other one, right? I mean, typically when it comes to whistleblowers, right? People who go against the system, their positions are stripped from them. So right now, you are an expert. She is being called by the media as an expert to speak for Indigenous people, right? What are the Indigenous people asking her to say? Missing and murdered Indigenous people, right? Can you talk about that a little, maybe? No, she's not going to talk about it. She said because she's got her own agenda. She's got her own narrative she's talking about, right? And it's not what the people, specifically her people she's representing, wants to talk about. It's not that. And she admitted it. She just said it. I'm going to end the video now because it's gonna go, it's 10 minutes in, and it's literally an hour long, and I spent an hour basically right here. So if you want to watch the video, go to Red Nation. It's called Holding Our Grounds, Voices and Struggles. Go look it up. Okay.